and still the lightweight champion of the world, and still the best lightweight in the world, and still the best pound for pound fighter in mixed martial arts right now. Islam Makhachev has successfully defended his 155-pound championship for a third time, this time against Dustin the Diamond Poirier, where we saw him get a fifth round Darce choke submission to further cement this historic run that he is on. Let's discuss this incredible fight of the night worthy title fight and get into the rest of UFC 302. We all know how amazing the storylines were heading into the 302 main event between Islam Makhachev and Dustin Poirier. If you don't know, go look back at the preview show on this channel and all of the other countdowns and embeddeds and social media content, because it was filled with the storylines of Islam being the protege of Khabib, continuing to build his legacy, continuing to cement himself as the best lightweight in the world, continuing to make history on this run that he is on, that we will touch on more in a second. And on the other side, for Dustin Poirier, will it be his final fight of his career? And if so, will he go out on top? Will he finally, in what will have been his third UFC Undisputed Championship fight, get the victory and become world champion? All of those were coming into this fight, and it really felt like a big fight feel throughout the week. I just felt like there was a lot of people talking about this fight, a lot of eyeballs on this fight, and it's for two guys that are huge names in the sport of MMA, but to the casual audience, I mean, I guess maybe Dustin broke through to that scale after the Conor McGregor victories. Islam maybe a little bit after beating Volkanovski twice, but it really felt deserved of these two to get this headlining spot against each other and to have the world focusing on this fight. And they delivered in a fight of the night on paper and literally from the UFC, and in my eyes for UFC 302, the best fight on the card, far and away the best fight on the card, to be quite honest with you. For 5 rounds, nearly 25 full minutes, Islam Makhachev and Dustin Poirier went toe to toe in a fight that was much more competitive than the betting line said going in, and much more competitive than what I felt and thought as well going into this fight. Now, in round number one, things were going pretty much how that betting line would have said they were supposed to go. Islam entered this fight around a minus 600 favorite, Dustin Poirier plus 400 underdog. Islam got Dustin down early in that first round, had his back for about 3.5 minutes of control time, the body triangle locked in. To Dustin Poirier's credit, he fended off the rear naked choke. He fended off the positioning sequences that Islam was trying to maneuver. And being that he was able to survive, he took it to round two. He took it to round three, round four, and round five before the choke happened in the fifth. But throughout the remainder of the fight, 2, 3, 4, 5, especially 2, 3, 4, the fight stayed on the feet. Dustin Poirier did an incredible job of defending the takedowns of Islam Makhachev. You could tell that the training camp with Matos Gamrot, a top 10 lightweight right now in the UFC, paid dividends for Dustin Poirier here. So that's my favorite part about this fight, is that Dustin did so well in the areas that he wasn't supposed to, and Islam Makhachev did so well in the areas that he wasn't supposed to. Dustin did great defending takedowns, getting up when he did get taken down throughout the remainder of the fight outside of round one. And for Islam, not only did he compete with Dustin Poirier in the striking, but he had the more, maybe not the bigger moments. There weren't a ton of like huge moments on the feet, and they both landed damaging shots. Dustin dealt the more visible damage. Islam had a nasty gash on his head. But I'll say the better combinations, the better sequences on the feet were, for the most part, predominantly owned by Islam Makhachev. And I think it just goes to show that fight by fight, he is really coming into his all and is a much different fighter than Khabib, the person that he gets compared to time and time again. And I swear to this, and I'm still holding true to this. I started to believe it years ago when he fought Thiago Moises, and now I'm even more firmly a believer in this statement right here. Khabib is still a GOAT. 29-0, 3 title defenses, undefeated, never been beaten. You can count on one hand how many rounds that he lost in his career. But as a complete, full, well-rounded fighter and mixed martial artist, I believe that Islam Makhachev takes the cake. Because if you want to compare the grappling of the two, I still would lean Khabib. I just think he's more heavy with his top pressure. He can keep his opponents down longer, make them suffer longer, it seems like, impose his will just a little bit more than Islam Makhachev. And Islam is still amazing in the wrestling and grappling department. You can't deny that. So in that area, almost a tie. I give the slight nod to Khabib. But in the stand-up, Islam is far and above a better, well-rounded striker than Khabib ever got the chance to become. He retired so early in his prime. Maybe one day he could have gotten to these levels. But I think now it's hard to deny that Islam Makhachev is a better striker. His kicks are clean and has knockout power. He knocked out Alexander Volkanovski. His hands are sharp. He was throwing knees up the middle, good clinch work, ripping to the body with combinations. Go and watch this fight, and you will see how good of a striker Islam Makhachev is. One of the best strikers now in the lightweight division. Dustin Poirier still probably at the top of the top. And in this fight, Islam had the better moments on the feet. I think that says a lot about the evolution that we have seen over the years from the protege of Khabib, and now finally, I think, separating himself from just being the protege of Khabib, Islam Makhachev. And in round number 5, after these guys were going at it for 22 minutes and 42 seconds, the sequence that Islam Makhachev had in that 5th round to finish the fight was one of the most beautiful things I've seen in recent memory. One of the most beautiful things I've seen in the duration of this podcast. The way in which Islam was able to grab the ankle of Dustin Poirier, hold it for just a second. Dustin was having to balance on one leg. Dustin was preparing to defend what seemed to be a single leg takedown coming next. And instead, Islam rips his leg across his body, throwing Dustin Poirier off balance into the canvas. And before Dustin could get back up in time, Islam pounces, and it immediately led to the Darce choke submission 2 minutes and 42 seconds into the 5th round that forced Dustin Poirier to tap, and pretty much immediately as the ref was breaking them up, go to sleep due to this amazing choke. Islam Makhachev said it's one of his favorite submissions to put on. I'll be honest with you, I think it's one of the more enticing submissions to watch as a fan as well. The way that they set it up, it just looks so clean. There's a couple different ways that they can put it on. The techniques in which people go about to get the choke in. This was just such an amazing finish for Islam Makhachev, an amazing way to set it up. It was just absolutely beautiful on the side of the champion, who has now defended the belt the same amount of times as Khabib Nurmagomedov has, 3 times. That is tied with BJ Penn, Khabib, and one other fighter, and it's no disrespect, but I can't remember what the graphic was off the top of my head last night, as the most title defenses in UFC lightweight division history. So if he gets one more, he will break the record and sit amongst the top all by himself with 4 title defenses. And who could that be against? Arman Tsarukyan. The rematch, 5 years in the making. Arman made his UFC debut on short notice and went the distance with Islam Makhachev in a very competitive 3-round fight many moons ago. He has since climbed back into contention. Islam Makhachev has climbed to the top of the division and become the king of 155 pounds. That is absolutely the fight to make next. Storylines after storylines after storylines for the title reign of Islam Makhachev. Now, Makhachev did mention in the post-fight interview in the cage that he is interested in going to welterweight, challenging the champion Leon Edwards, and we've known this for a little while now. but not quite yet. Just hold your horses for at least one more fight at lightweight so we can maybe get, of course, the rematch with Arman, which is a very, very enticing high level mixed martial arts contest with two guys that are in their prime and rose to the top of the ranks alongside one another. Islam a little bit faster than that of which Arman Saryukian has done. You have the chance for Arman to get redemption, thus setting up a trilogy fight. And if Islam wins, he will set himself up as the sole owner of the title defense record in the lightweight division and extend his win streak to what would be 15 in a row. He's currently sitting with the third longest win streak in UFC history at 14, only behind Kamaru Usman at 15 and Anderson the Spider Silva at 16. So there's a lot riding on the next fight for Islam Makhachev, and even more so if it remains in the 155-pound division. And if he can defend that title there, then we can start talking about 170 pounds. And in the meantime, while we get Islam and Arman paired together for a fight later in the year, we will await the winner of July 27th's welterweight title fight between Leon Rocky Edwards and Bilal Muhammad. And then we can go from there. And I have to finish the discussion with a tip of the hat, an homage to the Diamond Dustin Poirier, if this was his last fight, which I feel that it should be. And I will never tell someone, a fighter that puts their bodies on the line every time they're out there for us, when to hang it up. But doesn't it just feel like the perfect time? The storylines of him, this one last ride, can he do it? Third time's the charm. If not, he'll probably retire. He could even retire if he wins the belt and go out on top. He's said time and time again now that he has nothing left to prove. He's done everything there is to do in this sport. The money fights, the interim title, the 3 undisputed title shots, the victories in 2 different weight classes. He's done everything but become the undisputed champion. But after 3 tries and 3 failures, it's likely impossible he could ever get a 4th attempt at that title. And if he were to get it, he would have to go through the ringer of 2, 3, maybe even 4 other contenders before being put back in that discussion. I think Dustin realizes that. He's honest about that. He's honest about how he is in his family and life situation right now. I would like to see him go out in this aura regarding his career. I think it is the perfect time, the perfect swan song at only 35 years old, but a lot of fight years in that time. I'd love to see him move on to the next chapter. He has all of these business ventures with his charity, his hot sauce, his merch, which I have succumbed to buying a couple items from. And I'd like to hear him maybe do some commentary or analysis for the UFC. He's well spoken. He knows the game. He's with one of the best teams in the sport, at American Top Team in Florida. I think Dustin Poirier, without fighting, still has a lot left to offer for us fight fans in this sport that we love in mixed martial arts. So give me your thoughts in the comments below about the UFC 302 main event. What do you think should be next for Islam Makhachev? Do you want to see him fight Arman Saryukian at lightweight for another title defense, or go up to 170 and challenge the winner of Leon Edwards and Bilal Muhammad? And second question, should Dustin Poirier retire? Was UFC 302 the final fight of his career, or will we see the diamond in the cage at least one more time? Please be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. I give my breakdowns and previews, my recaps, my thoughts and opinions on MMA news and fight announcements right here on this channel. And I've started last month a monthly series called The State of the UFC. Now that this pay-per-view has ended, the second installment of that series should be coming later on this week. And there's a press conference in Dublin, Ireland on Monday between Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler. I don't want to guarantee I get content out around that press conference, but I'm going to keep my eye on it. So maybe you'll see something here or on social media. So make sure to follow there as well at the BAJ MMA. Follow on your favorite audio platform as well. If you like one long form audio podcast episode, those release every Friday and Monday on Spotify, Apple, and many more. So there's plenty of avenues and platforms to follow the show on. Be a part of the community as we continue to grow. So I appreciate any and all support. I hope you enjoyed the fights. I hope you had a great weekend. and I'll catch you sometime this week for UFC Louisville, the KFC Yum Center.